just now got the notice that you went on.
Wow, yours comes fast. Mine takes 10-15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just because we're on the same server.
Maybe so. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hey Richard, welcome to the stream. Can you hear me? Is the sound coming through? Testing 1, 2, 3. Hey Jeremy, can you hear me? Okay, good. I just always worry with XSplit every time. Is it lagging any? Hey Yama. Yeah, I'm back to video of the rainbow tank. No lag. Well, once again, I'm without axe to grind. Hey V-Stag, welcome to the stream, man. I have no axe to grind today, so it's pretty much question and answer. Yeah, I really like XSplit, Jeremy. I know everybody's talking about all these other different ways to live stream, and I really enjoyed your live stream about live streaming. But XSplit seems to work for me a lot better, and it's just easier all the way around. I don't have to worry about it, except for the sound issues that I did have on my live stream page. It's showing it continuously. It's not live on my live stream page, but it looks like the health's pretty good. So I'm just going with this. One of the issues I have is that when I usually build my own computers, and this last time I just decided, rather than going through all the headaches of building my own computer this time, that I'd buy one off the rack. And I picked up an Asus machine. I really like Asus computer parts. I've got an Asus monitor, Asus modem, Asus computer. I picked up a i7 6700 machine that Asus built, but to get the price point down, they went with integrated IBM graphics on it. So a lot of the times I have a hard time with OBS and a lot of those other programs, and it's not so much because the computer's too slow or my internet's too slow. It's because the video card, onboard video card, just isn't really strong enough to run with those streams. And XSplit warns me each time that I'm not using what they expect, but it seems to function pretty well. So I'm just not fighting it. Going with what I got. So, what's on everybody's mind today? In our fish house, my wife and I's, I have lost the Bellari, the last Bellari that I had from Jim, and we lost one of our goiter rivers, and I lost them both in very quick time. They went from being just fine to suddenly they were off by themselves. And I caught the Gorder River because I noticed that it had a notch in its tail fin. And I thought, oh boy, here we go, tail rot, fin rot. And it was dead within a couple of hours. And so I started really watching the Belleri when I caught it off by itself. And it was dead in less than an hour. I did manage to get the Gorder River out of the tank before it died into the quarantine tank. And hey Laura, welcome to the stream. And I did not manage to get the Belleri out of the tank before he died. He died that quickly. So Jeremy and I spent some time talking to each other over the phone, which I really appreciate, Jeremy, and really enjoyed. He has been using Pro and ICX to fight it in his tanks. These internal intestinal parasites. So I went ahead and ordered some from Corey, and Corey shipped them out, and I'm now treating the tank with Pro and ICX at the same time to try to stave off losing any more. And I had a bit of a surprise because I had put some Cordon malachite green intestinal parasite treatment in the tank with in my 29 quarantine tank with the Goiter River when I pulled it from the tank. And then the Goiter River died anyway. And I had not gotten around to changing the water out of the tank. After the Goiter River died, I just kind of let it go because there was nothing in the tank. And my wife has been moving some of her excess Java moss out of the rainbow tank, her 75-gallon, into that quarantine tank to get some plants growing in there. Because basically it's just a bare tank with a 10-gallon sponge filter, and then I've got half of it on under gravel filter. And so I was getting ready to change that water out. I was going to do a 60% water change on that quarantine tank, and I happened to notice something moving in the tank. And I got down low enough to really look, and I found 10 fry in the tank. Hey Joel, welcome to the stream. So we now have 10, and I'm assuming it's Goiter River rainbow fry, at least 10. That's 10 is the most I've counted at one time in that quarantine tank. So basically they haven't been fed really because I didn't know they were there. Welcome David McMimmy from Ireland. How's everything in Ireland now? Neon Tetra Aquarius is in. So I now have 10, at least 10, I think, Goiter River and rainbows in that tank. And it's really not made for fish to live in because I basically had it as a quarantine tank. A couple of pieces of spider wood in the tank. I did malm it with the sponge filter off of my canister filter in the 75. So it was cycled. I had cycled it, but there really wasn't anything in it, so I'd been throwing a little bit of food in there just to try to keep the bio load going. And like I said, the first time I used it was to drop that Goiter River that had either it had been beaten up really badly by a male, or it had internal parasites as well, and it just wasn't showing them. I just hadn't caught it showing them, and put it in there and added a bunch of cordon internal parasite, which is mostly malachite green, but it's malachite green the old school. And of course the fish died, so I had pretty much just left it. And there's some moss in there. There's a couple of small plants and a couple of plants that my wife thought were dying that she moved in there. And of course the diatomaceous algae is crawling up the sides of the tank. So once I noticed that the fry were in there, I wasn't too concerned, because there's a lot of diatomaceous algae all over the sides of the tank, and that will support enough microfauna for those fry to live off of. My wife tried crumbling up some flake food and putting a little in there, and I also stuck my finger in a bottle of Repashy powder and dusted a little bit of powder off the end of my finger. I found 10, Richard. That's the ones I counted, but there is a solid coating of diatomaceous algae around the inside of the tank, going up about halfway, so there may be more on the bottom. Hey Valley Fish, welcome to the stream. So I dusted a little bit. Repashy powder can be used to feed fry, because you don't mix it up and make a gel out of it. You literally just dab a little on the end of your finger and then kind of dust it off into the tank. Wife and I are talking about maybe getting a micro worm culture, and the lights. Are you talking about the lights in this my background video? Yes. If you will look on my videos for in the shop, I think I have 3 where I built this whole setup for these lights, and just look for in the shop, and you'll see the steps I went through and what I used and what I purchased to buy them, what I purchased when I bought them. It's basically $30 worth of can light replacements. They are LED can light replacements that you use to go. Hey Gibbs, welcome to the stream. Gorder River Rainbow Fry. If you have an office building and you want to replace the old incandescent lights that are in the cans, you can buy these LED lights and stick them. They fit right into the old cans, and will replace the incandescent bulbs.
Make sure and tell them they're 3,500 Kelvin.
They're 5,000 Kelvin.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
5,000.
Maybe they're 4,000. You'll have to look on my video. I list all the numbers. I think they're 5K. They're called daylight.
Oh, okay.
And they have a some kind of chromatic reading that is supposed to push up the colors that they put out. I don't know exactly. My wife's the one that could tell you exactly what they were if she was looking at them. And you did look at them before I used them.
Okay. Well, if they say daylight, then they're 5,600.
No, they were 5,000. That's
what make 5,000.
Yeah, that's what these were. Yeah, I was looking at spending over $100 on a light that would be powerful enough to get to the bottom of this 75-gallon, and I thought, wow, surely I can build something that will put out enough light to get all the way to the bottom, because I knew my wife wanted to grow a lot of plants in this tank. The problem is that they don't put out enough red in the red spectrum. So I went and bought a Marineland red strip. It's just a little 20-inch strip that does nothing but red. It's got red LEDs in it. And my wife has been moving that around on the lid of the tank to different areas to try to get enough red down to the plants. So yeah, those are do-it-yourself lights. I had a lot of trouble figuring out how I was going to mount it on the wall. Jeremy's saying, I love the CFL rated daylight, nice white spectrum daylight, 6500K and 800 lumens. I'm trying to remember what the lumens were on this. You're probably going to have to go look at my video that I put out, or my several videos. But in one of them, I break down all the. These are eco something lights, and basically I stole Joey's idea of using plant pots, plastic plant pots. If you'll remember, over his big arowana tank, he made LED lights where he hung plastic pots on wires and then mounted the yeah, I got these at Home Depot, Jeremy. We've got Home Depot down here, and I got them at Home Depot, and it was 30 bucks for 3 of them. And so I went with it because it was as close as I could get to what I thought the spectrum should be. My wife is working busily on her PowerPoint presentation that she's going to put up on her website, that is going to be about lighting and how lights affect fish. And after a bit here, I will let her take over the helm and talk to you guys about some of the stuff she's picked up already and some of the stuff that's going into her presentation. Hey, McMurray Farms, welcome to the stream, and I'm fine. How are you? How is everybody on this fine Saturday afternoon? It's a little cooler here in southern Indiana today. Would I mind talking about breeding the Shelleys? You mean when I had Shelleys? Jeremy, you're going to have to remember that this is almost 30 years ago that I had Shelleys. So my memory of them is not that distinct. I seem to remember that our water in Texas was pretty hard. Hey, White, welcome to the stream. Joel says the Kitchel household is a powerhouse of aquatic info and education. My wife is the powerhouse on education, and I'm the one with a little bit more aquatic skill. So yes, I think it balances out. I'm very interested in trying to help people that are, whatever level of fish keeping, with any information that I have gleaned. I've probably forgotten more than most people know. I've ingested a huge amount of research over my 30 plus years of fish keeping, so I've probably forgotten a lot of it, but there are a lot of things that stuck in my mind a long time ago, and I tend to hold on to those even with my failing memory. So sometimes I have memories of stuff that is a little bit out of the ordinary in the sense of how you can deal with a situation or how to approach dealing with a situation. Thanks, Jeremy. Topics are always difficult for me. The first 15 videos, live stream videos I didn't have any problem coming up with topics. And I'm sure I've got more topics in me. It's just lately with stuff going on, it's like I've got to sit down and spend spend a, 4 or 5 hours actually thinking about and researching a topic to try to have something cogent to say about it, and I just haven't put that effort in, I'm sorry to say. And I've noticed that a lot of people get by just doing question and answer and just working off what the people in the live stream share and have to say. So I've kind of been going that. David McMenemy started fish keeping in '84. David, I started in when I was going to college in the early '70s. Someone went home for spring break and left me their fish tank and never came back. So I basically started then. I didn't do very well with that tank, but I remember, trying to deal with it and trying to understand what I was doing wrong. And then that kicked me off into the hobby for real. I went ahead and started, I tried to reset that tank up when I lost all the fish eventually. I learned about chlorine and what it did to fish. I learned about nitrogen cycle. Basically you just start building on the mistakes that you have made. A lot of people get really upset when they make a lot of mistakes. I think mistakes are a great thing because it is an opportunity for growth, but you have to recognize it as an opportunity for growth and then put in the effort so that you understand what the mistake you made was and don't make that mistake again, or do to your best ability to not make that same mistake again. And as long as you look at mishaps in the hobby as a chance to gain knowledge, gain experience, recognize what didn't work for you, and then go about trying to find something that does work for you. And sometimes that's through books, sometimes that's through YouTube videos, sometimes that's from people you know in the hobby talking to you and you talking to them and them explaining how they got out of a similar situation, what worked for them. And a lot of times that's anecdotal evidence. It's not proof that that works all the time for everyone. But very often someone else's learning curve experience will aid you in jump-starting your learning curve. Because I recognized that Jeremy was probably dealing with a very similar intestinal parasite from Jim's fish that I was, Jeremy and I talked for about an hour on the phone the other evening, and he conveyed to me, I told him what I had tried to do to kick this parasite, and Jeremy conveyed to me what had worked for him, how he had gotten it under control, for which I am very thankful to him. And so I am talking to someone in the hobby who has had a exactly similar experience that I have with a fish that all came from the same fish room. So his fish came from Jim's fish room, my fish came from Jim's fish room, and they have similar issues, and so he has managed to solve the issue before I did, and so by me talking to him, I jumpstart my learning curve. I know that General Cure did not work. I know that my light medications, cordon medications that I have tried did not work because lost more fish. And so Jeremy has given me the benefit of his knowledge, and I am using it to get ahead of the curve instead of waiting until more fish die. Yeah, I think I'm in that number, Jeremy, of pre-1980 fish keepers, but I would be less than honest to tell you that pre-1980s I was a great fish keeper. I was killing fish. I was learning how to deal with this hobby. I was going through MTS. I was going through giant monster cichlid fish. I settled into Jack Dempsey's and started line breeding them because I enjoyed their personality and their pugnaciousness. Jeremy, the honor is all mine, man. You helped me. And you got my number, so you call me if I can help you. I'm sorry I can't give you better personal experience with the Shelleys. I think I had the Shelleys in the late 70s, and I was going through a lot of fish. I was buying fish, trying them out, because suddenly I had all these new avenues. A lot of fish were coming into the hobby, and I had all these new avenues of fish that were suddenly available. Like I can remember buying a threadfin rainbow like my wife has in her tank. She's got 6 of them, and by the way, they're doing so much breeding behavior in that tank now. I'm surprised we don't have a bunch of fry, except for the fact that the Gorda Rivers are probably all eating all the eggs and all the fry as quickly as they come out. Joe Gilead asks about Texas cichlids, and I would not tell you that I am an expert, but I would tell you that they are very similar to Jack Dempsey's, that some people even say that Texas cichlids are either a northern variant of Jack Dempsey's, or that they are some family. You can tell by the spangling on their bodies that they're really close to Jack Dempsey's. So my advice to you would be to study Jack Dempsey material, and that you will learn a lot about Texas cichlids. Some at my live fish store currently, how do they go with Oscars of the same size? A lot of people compare Texas cichlids to green terrors in the sense that they are that belligerent. Now, I will tell you that a slightly larger Jack Dempsey skinned a Texas cichlid one time, literally skinned it. There was nothing left but raw flesh on the outside of that fish's body. All the scales were gone. So Texas cichlids are very belligerent. When they start breeding, you can expect to lose other fish in the tank. And as tough as Oscars are, I would be willing to bet that a Texas cichlid that went into breeding behavior would probably kill an Oscar, unless the Oscar was a whole lot bigger, big enough to cow the Texas cichlid. If it was a 4-inch Texas cichlid and a 12-inch Oscar, then the Oscar might win. But if it was a 4-inch Texas cichlid and a 6-inch Oscar, I'm afraid the Texas cichlid would win. Now, you know, when we talk about things like this, every fish is different from another fish. So when someone tells you that in general Texas cichlids are very belligerent fish by nature, that doesn't mean that you won't occasionally get one that will get along perfectly well for its whole life in a community tank. So always take what people say with a grain of salt. So, you know, the 83% of the time, a Texas cichlid is going to be very belligerent, especially when breeding. But there's probably 17% of Texas cichlids that you could plunk in a tank full of angels and ditherfish and whatever, and they would do just fine for their entire life. Never once try to eat or kill another fish. Jeremy says put them on timeout and let them know that they'll be getting Wardleys. Works every time. I couldn't even feed a timeout fish Wardleys, Jeremy. That stuff is about as pathetic a food as ever. Corey was actually talking about buying Wardleys and turning it into a fantastic fish food. I mean, Wardleys has been around forever, but they are garbage. They used to have some decent cichlid pellets a long, long time ago when they first came out with them, but that's about all I've ever seen from Wardleys. They did have Koi Pond pellets that were pretty decent too. Hey Kyle, welcome to the stream, man. What's up with Kyle today? What terrors are you into in the fish keeping world? I've really been enjoying your last few videos, Kyle. You seem to have reached a turning point in how quick your skill is amassing. You're passing me in some areas now. My wife was talking to me a little earlier about needing iron for her plants. And you know what, Kyle? I'm going to let her come talk. And if you would, in the chat, talk to her about the iron that you got and where you got it from, because I saw that in your video. And she is talking about thinking that she needs to get some iron. If you wouldn't mind doing that.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yes, here, let me help you up.
Okay. Thank you, dear.
Kyle is in the stream, Kyle's Wild World.
Wild World.
Yeah, and he has recently gotten some iron that you might want to talk to him about.
Okay, hey Kyle. Hey everyone. Sergeant Tank, Joel.
You need help?
I can't see everybody's name. As you know, I'm visually impaired. But I want to say hi to all of you. Oh, here's the royal wave. There you go. Now, Kyle, I'm looking for some iron, and I don't care if it's mixed up with something else, like a multivitamin or something for plants. But I understand that it's hard to find iron in a water-soluble form. So I'm interested in where you got your iron. So if you'd like to post that up there. My alkalinity, I think we're right at neutral. So what's that, about a 5.5 or a 6? Okay, I'm not seeing an answer yet, but that's okay. He might be typing. Oh, the KH, not the PH. I don't know. Dwayne's out of the room right now, so I can't tell you what the KH is. I'm sorry, but as soon as he comes back in the room, I'll ask him. I should know that. I'm sorry that I don't. But when he comes in, I'll ask him. And until then, I wanted to steal a few minutes from this broadcast to talk to you about some things that are coming up in my PowerPoint and my video. One of the amazing things that I found out, and well, let me back up and say that what I've been suspecting, chelated iron DTPA is what you want. eBay. Okay, got it, Kyle. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm on eBay all the time, so I'll get it there. So everybody knows that I come from the world of science, and especially lighting for visually impaired people. And lately I've been studying about fish vision and fish eyes and fish behavior and how lighting affects all that. And by golly, we sure are doing some things wrong. Here's a little sample of what I'll be putting in my video. There was a group of scientists, I think this group was from Canada, and they took they took four groups of African cichlids, and one group, they raised them from babies in blue light. And when I'm talking about blue light, I'm talking about light that's between, well, that's 41 Kelvin, 4100 Kelvin and up, okay? So the higher the number, the more blue is going to be in the light until you get to ultraviolet, and there's some of that in there too. And then they raised another group, equal number, in red light from their infancy. And then they had two control groups of equal size, a control group for the fish that were under blue light and a control group for the fish that were under red light. And I think it was 9 months that they had the fish in these conditions. I've read so much research, I could be crossing my facts. I'm sorry, but they were under there a while. And what happened was, after they started testing the fish as they were getting close to their closing deadline for the research, and what they found in the fish that were under white light or natural light was that these fish maintained their color vision, and most fish have real good color vision, better than ours, because they can also see ultraviolet. Some of them can. And so the fish in the control group maintained their normal color vision. The fish under the red lights maintained their normal color vision. But the fish under the blue lights lost their color vision and could only see in black and white when they were put under the red light. So when that was added to their light, they were colorblind essentially. Under the blue light, they could see colors except not red and green. So they were red-green colorblind under the blue light, and completely colorblind under the red light. So that tells us that if we're keeping our fish in these aquariums that are lit heavily by blue light, all your actinic lights and most of the lights, if you turn them up and look at them on the underside, they're all blue. They're various stages of blue. If they're white, they're half blue and half yellow. They mix those to make white. And if they're not getting any red, that has other implications too. So that's one thing I'm gonna have in my presentation, and just a little teaser to make you kind of hungry for the presentation. I'm working on it right now, and I've got it about a third of the way done. So I hope to bring you, there's a lot more where that came from. There are lots of facts out there that fish keepers do not know, that the people who make lights do not know. There's a lot of information that we are just ignoring and not looking at. So we need to stop and rethink the way that we're doing some of these things and what we're doing to our fish. Let me see if I've got any questions. Okay, Nilo CG Aquatics for everything. Okay, thank you, Kyle. Kyle says human eyes are almost blind to blue light and red light compared to green and yellow light, and the opposite for plants from my research. Well, I know we are losing our ability to see blue. I have a feeling that at one time man could probably see ultraviolet. I have absolutely no proof for that. But the way we are losing ozone and the way more light is getting through from the sun and more ultraviolet, and we know that a lot of people my age have lost a great deal of their sensitivity to blue light, and that means they are unable to see part of it. It makes sense that, you know, we might ultimately lose that. I don't know about red. I think we still see pretty well in the red end of the spectrum. Of course, it changes the color of things. If you put a green plant under a red light, it starts to look kind of brown. So our color vision isn't perfect under red light, but we do still have good ability to see green and yellow, orange, and red under natural light.
Green skies of home.
The green skies of home?
Yes.
I don't know what you're...
Eventually we might possibly see the sky.
Oh, this used to be a postulation of mine that eventually we might see the sky as green. If we do lose our ability to see blue, the next color that we're able to see on the spectrum would be green. So if we were to live long enough, the skies might be green. Oh, we'll just... Well, we can't check back, can we, after we die? So I don't know how we're going to find out. But that is a possibility, kind of wild one. So Kyle says, so would it be ideal to have a low spectrum light? CFL, which is compact fluorescent lights, have low 2700 K values up to 6500 values. Even for 6500 K values, the value will just be the highest. I don't know what that means, Kyle. I don't know what you're saying there. Another thing he's saying is that green and yellow look brighter than red or blue. Yeah, that doesn't have anything with our ability to see it. That has to do with luminance. Those colors have natural luminance. Like, you can't make a dark yellow. It's impossible to make a dark yellow. You can make an intense yellow, you can make a saturated yellow, but you can't make it a dark color because it maintains its luminance. And green and orange maintain their luminance almost as well as yellow. But you can make a dark green. You cannot make a dark orange. So yeah, that has to do with the quality of luminance. Okay, Dwayne, are you still here? Oh, I forgot to ask him about the KH while he was here. Okay, so don't know if I've got you turned on about my upcoming broadcast, but anyway, I hope so, and I hope that you'll stick with me and try to learn more about what our fish need from us in the way of light. And I'm not just going to be talking about vision, I'm going to be talking about their general health as well, and that of your plants too. We grow them together, so we have to keep those in mind. So thank you all for listening. I'm going to turn it back over to Dwayne. And Dwayne, Kyle wants to know what the KH of the water in the 75-gallon tank is. We need that for the iron question. Bye, everyone.
Kyle, the TDS of the water in the Rainbow 75 is around 400. I think I had it about 360, and when I went and got Jim's fish, I discovered that his TDS was slightly over 400, and so I've been slowly raising the TDS in that tank to try to get it in the 400 range. So the TDS is around 400. I have been using Aqua Vitro. Hey Jim, how's it going, man? Welcome to the stream. Jim, when are you guys going to stream? If I need to get out of your way, I will. My tap water has been coming out at about 180 if I use cold water, and about 220 if I use warm water. So I have been using Aqua Vitro KH and GH to run up the TDS on my water that goes in the tank. So I don't know how much iron is in GH, the Aqua Vitro GH, and I don't know how much iron is in Corey's Easy Green, but those are the two things that I've been using. And Aqua Vitro is made for plants. So, yeah, Joel, I'm looking forward to it too. It's hard for me. I see what you're talking about, Kyle. Yeah, I picked up on that little bit that you were talking about, the DTPA chelated iron. So yeah, my alkalinity is far above medium. It's in the high range. The pH is about 7.5, 7.6 in that tank, and okay, honey, he's telling you to look up NILOCG' CSM plus B, and I'm assuming that that is a form of iron that you can buy. Did you get that down?
No, I'm trying to close some documents here. Okay, NIL
OCG' space CSM plus B. And I'm assuming that that's a type of iron that you can buy, or a type of
Yep, found it.
Okay, Kyle, she found it. Thank you. Nilo Aquatics is a fert guy that Lucas gets his ferts from. Ah, okay. So that's the same guy that Lucas gets his fertilizers from.
Okay.
So you're buying in bulk of large amounts. And I did not know that, Kyle, so thank you for the heads up on that. I knew that Lucas was buying in bulk when he bought his, but I didn't realize that it would be something that we could use. I don't know exactly how much iron is in Corey's Easy Green, but we've been using that.
Oh, there's iron.
Thanks, Kyle. That's a big help. Because my wife asked me and I couldn't answer it, but I did remember seeing you $10 will get you a year's worth, Kyle says. But I did
Looks like it.
I did remember seeing that you had gotten some, so when she said that, that came into my mind. Well, she's really I think I am pushing the micros with Aqua Vitro, the GH, but I'm not sure it has enough iron. My wife will always put way more plants in there than normal, so it's important that the tank has Eco Complete in it, So I'm sure it has pulled some out of the water, because that's basically what that stuff does, is pull minerals out of the water so that the plant's roots can use them. It re-releases them for the plant's roots. But some of these plants are column feeders, and some of them are root feeders. And so it's kind of, hit or miss whether they're getting enough. And yes, I'm looking very much forward to my wife's presentation too. I've caught little bits and pieces of it as she's been putting it together, and I've seen some of the bibliography that she's gone through to get the information, and I'm looking forward to having that bibliography to go through and read up some of this stuff myself. And honey, when you do it, you can use the description screen to list your bibliography with links to the places that people can go and read the actual stuff, if they can get to it.
Well, some of them have to show me how to do that, but I'll be happy to do that.
Okay. So we're coming up on an hour here. If people have questions, I know we've kind of taken over the stream as far as not many questions going on. Let's see, it looks like my video is not running. There we go. Video hasn't been running. The video on the background.
Oh.
Okay, Dank Tank says, Kyle ends up saying, I dose Pro PPS method daily as it is the cheapest and easiest. Nilo Aquatics has FERT dosing calculators instructions too. You just want a decent gram scale to measure. Okay, I don't have a decent gram scale, which is one of the reasons I didn't go ahead and treat with fenbendazole, because I just wasn't sure, as much as I'd seen and read, what to treat with, how much, and how to figure out how much it was. Okay, Dank Tank says, I have a question about mulm from driftwood. What small pleco would be best at controlling this? I have a Sun 304B, but the flow is too slow to really polish the water. Trying to cut out the stage of getting it off the wood. 33 long with emerald green cories.
Autosinkless.
My wife is saying autosinkless because we had a bad problem with diatomaceous algae in her tank, and it never really switched over to green algae like it normally does for me. It just stayed super thick diatomaceous algae and getting thicker. And we got her a bristle nose pleco to try to keep up with it, and for some reason he died. I don't know what the reason was or how it happened, but for some reason he died. So when she was on vacation up in Michigan, I finally had about enough of it, and I went to my local fish store and I got 12 autos and dropped them in the tank. And they have cleaned that tank where it is now spotless. Fenbendazole is easy to measure with a teaspoon cup. 1/8 of a teaspoon weighs 4 grams. So 1/8 of a teaspoon treats a 40 breeder. So I would use 2/8 of a teaspoon, or 1/4. Dank, autos come very small and they stay very small. Autosinkless are about an inch and a half when they're fully grown. They are a schooling fish, so they do a lot better in a larger group. I got a dozen The problem with autos is they will usually devour everything in the tank, and then it's hard to feed them. It's hard to give them enough food to keep them going. So some people feed them like romaine lettuce on a clip. Some people feed them spinach leaves on a clip. But I have never gotten any autos to eat either of those, or zucchini or anything for me. So I don't know what the deal is, but I just haven't had much luck getting them to eat those things. So what usually happens is you get a bunch of autos, 10, 20, they eat everything in the tank that they can eat, and then they start dying off. It's really hard to keep a giant school of autos. Rachel O'Leary has some really good videos about giant schools of autos and how to keep them alive. That's Autocinklus, and they are a pleco. They're a tiny little pleco that's much different from most other plecos, but they are in the pleco family. As of now, Sven Kullander may get a hair up his butt and change that at some point, but for now they are still in the pleco family. And Kyle, you've gotten much more expertise in measuring medications and things than I have, man. That's what I'm talking about when I say that I have been watching your skill gather. Yes, very likely, Dank, that's what it is. In the normal scheme of things, your tank will go through several iterations of growth as it reaches the mature tank stage, and it's usually you'll get the white fungus on your new wood. Then you'll get diatomaceous algae, which will cover everything else. And then that gives way to green algae. And that's the point when you need to have your plants competing for nutrients in the tank so as to keep the green algae from getting out of hand. That's kind of how a tank matures. Only in our tank, this 75, the diatomaceous algae was so heavy it just never went away. It just kept growing. So 12 autos cleared up this 75-gallon tank full of diatomaceous algae within about a week. Yeah, you probably, Dank, and I'm saying probably because I'm not looking at it and I can't tell you. There are some forms of brown algae that is not diatomaceous algae, and if I remember correctly, some of them are pretty pernicious and not exactly friendly. So you might just type in brown algae and hit the image button in Google and look at the images until you come across an image that has exactly what algae that you're talking about in it, and then use that to search back and find out if that is exactly what we're talking about. Diatomaceous algae is pretty thick, or it will get pretty thick. Oh, okay, it's only on the spiderwood. Then I would say that it's probably diatomaceous algae. It may not be. The fungus, the white that you usually get on different kinds of wood, is usually a fungus, and then that will give way to diatomaceous algae, which is brown, and then that will give way to green algae, usually. But you could try a little group of bristlenose plecos. You could try panax, the big humped-looking plecos, which are striped, and some of them have bright blue eyes. Those are wood grazers, but you may not have enough wood in your tank to actually keep them satisfied. So you might be careful if you go that direction. Because they rasp a lot of wood. Okay, guys, we're up over an hour. And unless you've got some last minute questions to get in, I think I'm going to be calling it. I know that Corey and Jim are going to be streaming. I'm not sure if it's sooner or later. It may be at Corey's normal time, which is like 8 o'clock my time. So I don't know exactly when that stream will come about. But Jim, I'm an hour is about my time limit anymore. I don't know how you guys are going to Bob's house. Can I come too? I want to go to Bob's house. You're over there in Washington now, and you can go to Bob's house anytime you want. And you're living in Corey's house. Oh my God, I'm so jealous. Okay, Corona Ken, I'm glad you stopped by. And White, am I off the ground yet, Jim? Am I flying yet? Thanks, Biggs. Yeah, there's always the replay to catch. Yeah, we all want to go. Richard's right. The heck with all this call in and live stream. We want teleporters, Jim. Tell Corey he needs to get about 30 teleporters set up in his room and send us all teleportee devices so that we can, when live streams come on, we can all teleport into the room and watch. They are actually doing teleportation now. I've seen news where they have actually literally split an atom in two parts and teleported one part of the atom, and then using the other part of the atom, they were able to get readings on what the other part was doing. And supposedly China is teleporting stuff into space now. There's no telling what they're sending out there, but supposedly that they are doing that. Yeah, holograms would be cool too. That way Corey could see us all in hologram while he's doing the live stream, and get facial cues off of how we're acting. Okay, guys, I'm gonna call it. Thank you all for spending part of your Saturday with us. My wife and I wish you a happy weekend, or what's left of it, and good luck with your fish keeping. Have a good day.